Hey, welcome to the Resolve Podcast, episode number 17. I'm Carly Gisano, a New Year's resolution coach, obsessed with all things goal setting, personal development, coaching, and of course, resolutions. One of my biggest goals is to help you reach yours. I'm here to provide the tools, support, and inspiration you need to reach your goals this year and every year, and to feel supported every day along the way. As we start off this new year, I wanted to talk about something that I find comes up in discussions a lot, whether with my clients or just anyone else I happen to be talking to. And it's something that I think is very important, and it's actually at the root of why I became a New Year's resolution coach, as opposed to something that a lot of people would probably consider to be more typical, like a weight loss coach. I considered being a morning routine coach, which is also pretty niche. But as opposed to focusing on a particular category of goals like that, someone looking to write a book or run a marathon or lose weight, make more friends, build a relationship, like those kinds of things are about something very particular, whereas New Year's resolutions is much more general in that it is a particular category of goal rather than implying a certain goal in and of itself. Although there are New Year's resolutions or resolutions in general that are pretty common, having or setting a New Year's resolution doesn't particularly imply that you are going to set a particular one or even a particular type of one. And in this discussion, I'm going to be using the terms resolution and goal pretty interchangeably. I think of resolution as a particular type of goal being the more transcendent category. But in terms of this episode, they both mean pretty much the same thing in the context of why reaching your goal or keeping your resolution isn't the goal itself. This is something that it sounds really counterintuitive, right? Because if you want to run a marathon, you think that completing the marathon is the goal, but it actually isn't. You may think that writing your book is the goal, but it actually isn't. At least it isn't the most important goal, or it isn't the most important goal in my opinion, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. When I'm talking to someone about coaching them, there are a lot of reasons that someone would want to coach with me. And of course, reaching their goal is part of it. Keeping their resolution is part of it. But it isn't the most important part because it's something that they could probably do on their own. The reason someone looks for coaching or outside help is to have someone who's able to come alongside them to help them do the practical, tangible work of breaking down their goal or resolution, creating a strategic plan, figuring out what particular tools or tactics they're going to need to use to get there, whether that's a habit tracker or bridge habits, stuff like that. But a coach is also able to provide you the resources that you need and the knowledge that you need and the external perspective that you need in order to build the tools and skills that are actually necessary, not only to reach your goal or to keep your resolution, but to reach any goal and to keep any resolution. And that is why I'm so passionate about helping my clients, what I say is reach their goals this year and every year, because I believe that if you have the tools and tactics and strategies and resources and everything else that comes with coaching or that I'm sharing on this podcast, then you do have exactly what you need, not only to reach your goals this year, but then every other year in the future. So if running a marathon or writing a book or building a relationship or saving money, making money, if that isn't the goal itself, then what is? And I would contend that the real goal, which isn't the goal that you're setting or the goal that you're working on and striving to achieve this year, the real goal is things and qualities like self-confidence or self-trust. For a lot of people, processing their emotions is a big one. Time management is one that it doesn't sound very fun or sexy, but it ties into pretty much any goal that you're working on. There's going to be a component of that. A lot of times you're dealing with belief, your underlying beliefs about yourself and the world, your ability to reach goals in general, or the goal you're working on in particular, your ability to take action even when you don't feel like it, your ability to motivate yourself, or even if you can't or don't want to do that, what other emotions you can draw from, how to evaluate your results to make sure that they're actually in alignment with what you actually want, and what to do when they aren't. How to keep working towards the things that you are passionate about. What to do when you fall off the wagon or it's been a day or a week or a month since you were taking strategic action and intentionally doing the things that you set out to do. All of these things and components, the ability to make progress and then to be able to evaluate and start making progress again when you aren't making progress, those are the skills that don't just work and apply to a particular goal or particular type of goal, but that are important and valuable in your pursuit of any goal or any resolution. And so that is part of why I decided that I didn't want to just coach on a particular area or goal. I wanted to teach people the tools and skills that they needed to be able to reach any goal and every goal that they wanted to. And so I decided to apply that within the context of New Year's resolutions. Of course, I love New Year's resolutions too. I love the champagne and the confetti and pretty much everything associated to and related with them as someone who hasn't always kept them, but now does and has seen their power. So of course, all of that went into the decision too. But I am so passionate about the idea of it's not just about a particular area, it's about the skills that you gain. And then when you zoom out or step back, you can see how all of those things play together, come together to serve you in your pursuit of any goal. And I think sometimes that's missed with other coaches, or when you're focusing so intently on a particular skill or area, it can be hard to be able to step back and zoom out and see how those skills can apply to anything. And I think that's something that's in my skill set and my ability as a coach to help people be able to do that, to apply that recognition and context to everything, and to realize when they're processing emotion, or when they get up early to go for a run like they said they were going to, even when they don't feel like it, or when that chocolate cake was on the counter on Thursday night and they didn't eat a second piece, or maybe they didn't even eat a first piece, or when they turn off the TV at night earlier so that they can go read in bed, or when they were able to get another 1,000 words in place for their book because it was on their schedule, although it did not seem like the most fun thing to do at the time, or when they save $25 and put it towards their emergency savings account instead of, spending it on literally anything else out there. It is so important to be able to recognize that the skills that you're building and growing and developing aren't just helpful within the context of that. It's helpful within the context of any other one of those things, because if you can do one, then you can do them all. And sometimes when we are so focused on one thing, we feel like we're not making progress. But when you can realize that you are making progress on that one thing, or maybe several things if you're working on several things at once, but you're more importantly building the skills that you need then to make progress in that area and every other, you are able to build momentum so much quicker, so much faster. You're able to recognize the skills that you're developing. And that is so important. So the two skills that I focus with my clients on more than any other are self-confidence and self-trust. And I always say that self-confidence is the belief that you can do anything, and self-trust is the belief that you will do anything. So, of course, all the other belief systems and skills that I've talked about today are very important, but those two, I think, are fundamental and absolutely key to your pursuit of anything, because in order to achieve anything, first of all, you have to believe that you can do it, even if you've never done it before. That is a key to self-confidence. You don't have to have run a marathon before to believe that you can run a marathon, because self-confidence isn't just your belief in your ability to do X, Y, or Z thing, like run a marathon. It is your belief in your ability to do anything, of course, within some bounds of reason, but more importantly, your ability to take the steps to figure out what's next, to process the emotion, to follow through one step at a time, to not give up, to keep going, to persevere. All of that is what ties back into self-trust and can give you the confidence, the self-confidence that you can do something, you can move forward, you can make progress, even if you've never done something before. And most of the time when you've set a goal or resolution, it's not something that you've done before. And self-trust, on the other hand, ties in closely with self-confidence, but it's distinctly different. It's not only that you can follow through and can take the next step, can recognize even what that next step needs to be, but it's that you will do that. You have the trust within yourself that the things that you want are in alignment, that they're moving you closer to your ultimate goal. Each step matters, but you have the belief that you will follow through on each of those steps, because it's nice to know that I set the alarm for 5 a.m. and I can get up. I have the confidence to know I can do that. But it's in that moment, it's important also to have the self-trust that you set the alarm for 5 a.m. and you will get up at 5 a.m. Because you set the alarm for 5 a.m., you can do it and you will do it. So I think that the interplay between those two characteristics and qualities is super fascinating. And they are two things that it is vitally important to develop in your pursuit and as you work towards any goal. I think that writing my book is probably one of the easiest examples to use to apply to this idea that I had the idea and I knew it was something I wanted to do. I knew it was a priority, something that I actually desired and wanted to pursue. It was something I wanted to do for a long time. And once I had the idea, I was not initially prepared to tackle it, but then of course, as I shared before, the pandemic happened, and with a bit more time that ended up in my lap, I decided that I was ready to pursue it, start taking that action and making that progress. And of course, now I have a book that is moving along its way. One of my goals this year, as I shared, is to get it published, to get it through that next phase. But in the meantime, everything that it took to get to this point was a lot of writing and a lot of perseverance. And then when I didn't write for a while, figuring out how to get started again and where to get started again, and perseverance and persistence and willingness. At the very beginning, I had to work a lot on the belief that I could write a book, or that I deserved to write a book, or that I had things that were actually of value and worth saying. That was something that was important and that I had to work through, creating the discipline of getting the writing done, the research done. Actually, I went back and forth on that, on which part that I actually enjoyed more. So that was interesting to see. And it wasn't just whichever one I wasn't doing at the moment. The ability to manage my time, not only to get it done, but to not let it overflow into other areas of my life. There were times when I had a writing goal and there was something that came up with family or friends, and knowing for me that I value those things more highly, and so choosing to spend my time and energy focused on that rather than forcing myself to squeeze in 1,000 words or staying up till, 1 a.m. to get it done. Although there were a few days like that too, and giving myself grace if I didn't hit the 1,000 words, although I think I did pretty much every day, and being willing to push through when I didn't feel like writing, to process the emotions of exhaustion and boredom and lack of motivation, unworthiness, kind of all those things that working towards any goal can bring up. I was able to work on, and sure, my book got done and it will be published. But it was the development of all of those skills within the context of writing my book that have ultimately been so much more valuable, because they're things that I use in my business and in my relationships and in my pursuit of other goals in my day-to-day life. And of course, it was nice to write the book and get that done, but ultimately it was everything else that really has a much more lasting importance and significance to me. Another example from even further in my past was competing in competitive speech and debate in high school. And a lot of times you would strive to get a certain ranking or to qualify to the next level in a certain area. And of course that was really nice, but looking back now, I have boxes of trophies and medals and certificates somewhere. Actually, I have a pretty good idea of where they are, but I've certainly pared them down over the years. I really only have the ones that are that uppermost level of significance. And occasionally, even now, I look back at some of them where someone will mention something and I'll remember, oh yeah, I did do that, or I did win that award, and that was exciting. But it's something that I've completely forgotten and has really no ultimate or lasting significance in my life. But along the way, I was able to develop relationships, or more importantly, learn how to develop relationships, to do research, to articulate myself, to be able to speak in public in front of people that I know and don't know, and all different levels about all different things, whether they're things that I know about or don't know about, to be able to think on my feet, sometimes better than others, to be able to plan and prepare and then present something that way. And those skills, of course, have been able to serve me well to this day. It's part of, I'm sure, what has given me the confidence to start this podcast now, to share this content with you. But it's something that I wasn't necessarily able to recognize at the time, although in hindsight, it's so clear that this was where the real value lay. It wasn't in the awards or the medals, even if I did get those too, and they were nice, certainly at the time, and even to look back on, but it's not of the utmost importance, and those things aren't still serving me today. Rather, they're just taking up space in a storage box somewhere. So to sum it up, the real purpose isn't to lose weight or write a book or start a business or whatever else you may want to do. It's to build the skill of achieving your goals through all of those qualities, through the self-confidence, through the self-trust, through the ability to process your emotions, through the ability to believe new things, to practice believing new things, to recognize the things you don't want to believe anymore, and to know that you can do the things you want to do, and that when you say you will, you will. The way that all of those things come together is so powerful in the recognition and identification of anything, and then the ability and the actual follow-through of getting there. I think that as you work on all of those things throughout whatever goals or resolutions you may be working towards this year, take the time to step back and recognize those qualities and skills that you are developing all along the way through the pursuit of those things, and give yourself the credit for those things as well, because those are the real gems. And then I think of achieving the goal as like the cherry on top of all of those things, because of course you achieve the goal too, and that's wonderful and exciting, and we celebrate that. And that's a lot of times that's what we want, or we think we want most, is to do those things. But ultimately, the most important thing is the actual pursuit of the goal, not the goal itself, which of course is like the biggest cliche of all time, the journey over the destination. And I know you know that, but I think it's important to recognize the importance of building the skill of achieving your goals rather than just achieving the goals themselves. It's an important distinction, kind of like the what do you wish versus what do you want. That is so vital and important as we especially start a new year and start working towards them. Reaching our goal isn't the goal itself. And so I would encourage you today to resolve to recognize the qualities that you want to develop in 2022. It's not just about the goals that you have set, which I hope you have. I hope you have set your goals and your resolutions and that they are exciting to you and that you are working towards them. But I want you to recognize that those things in particular aren't the goal, and to recognize and realize and identify for yourself what those qualities are that you most want to develop as you work towards those goals that you're going to achieve anyway. So with that, I will share with you what I am reading this week. This week, I am reading The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. I have started that one. I'm a little bit into it. It's still catching on. I'm going to see how I think and feel about that one. I know it's a movie and Netflix film, so it has to have some merit and be a truly great story. I'm still getting into it, so I haven't quite gotten to the point of agreeing with that. And then I'll probably watch the Netflix movie once I'm done, eventually. Maybe months or years from now, but eventually that will be on my list as something to do. And today I wanted to take a minute to toast my first day of grad school. So in case you missed the announcement last week, kind of the biggest focus that I have for this coming year is I'm going to be enrolled in a graduate program. It will take up pretty much all of my year, I think, and jumping back into the rhythm of homework and assignments and due dates and reading and quizzes and papers and research is going to be a lot, just on top of everything else. But I am really excited for what that's going to mean and the stuff that I'm going to learn and the way I'm going to be able to apply it to my life. So I am toasting that I took that leap, that I registered, signed up, and then of course today that I'm actually diving in to the classes themselves. I know that getting my master's degree isn't the goal itself, and I know it's going to allow me to continue to develop a lot of tools and skills and qualities that I hope to have in greater detail over the coming year. But I also want to toast starting grad school and everything else that that's going to mean. So with that, thanks for tuning in to the Resolve Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Carly Tizano. I would love to connect with you. Don't forget to rate and review. It really helps other people find the show. And subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss another great episode next week. For the show notes or additional support in reaching your goals, check out carlytizano.com. Until next time, here's to all that lies ahead.